Hey guys, this is Ahir Chatterjee. I'm searching for the win-wins in life. Let's find them together. Today is Tech Dive Tuesday. You might have seen our episode last week. If not, go check that out. Today we're going to be diving into large language models and kind of how you can experiment with them and the difference between open sourced and closed source, how to set up an LLM, how to integrate that into your technical stack, and then making the right choice on, what you want to use for your experience. All right. So, what is a large language model? We're going to start there first, just cover the basics. A large language model is basically going to be an AI that's trained on a lot of data. So if you take OpenAI, what they did is they crawled the entire internet and they took all of that data to train their model. Now, there's a lot of complexity in how you train the model, but we, that's not. That's maybe a video for a future Tech Dive Tuesday, okay? Um, but basically, once you've trained that model, you are now capable of having something where you can feed in a large amount of input text and you can get output text relating to a task that you've kind of already given this large language model. And that kind of depends on the data you're training it on. That's how you're going to get it better and better at doing certain tasks. And a lot of these large language models are good at doing multiple tasks, as you can see. Like if you've used ChatGPT, you know you can use it for writing emails, but you can also use it for data analysis. You can use it for a whole slew of things, right? Conversing with it, right? There's so many great uses for it, and they're not just generalized to one task. So remember, large language models can do multiple tasks. All right, so now we need to talk about open source versus closed source. If you're thinking about a large language model, you need to know these two distinctions. Okay, so number one, open source models. These are typically going to be um, first off, well, just know these are going to be less powerful, but you're gonna have more variety to choose from, and they're self-hostable. Okay, that's like the most important part is they're self-hostable, and if you have the hardware to be able to host them on, it's great because now you don't need to pay anyone else. Because with closed source models, they're privatized, there's fewer models, and their biggest the reason that they kind of keep private is because they're so powerful. They don't want to really release it. They want to make you pay for it, which is kind of fair. They put a lot of work into making these things, so you have to use like paid APIs to get into them. So there's kind of this trade-off of, okay, do I want to use a paid API for my use case, or do I want to make a big initial investment now and host my own open source model? But the trade-off is also that open source models are typically less powerful. So rather than having a generalized use case, you're going to typically want a more custom open source model for your use case as well. Now, here's how you can kind of set up a large language model for your tech stack. Disclaimer, I got this from an AWS online image. Just wanted to put something in here quickly. Uh, so bear with me here, but this is kind of a retrieval augmented generation pipeline, but the basics are still the same, okay? So let's walk through it real quickly. So first you have this prompt and query that you pass in to basically a server or something right before your large language model. And now it's going to go search over your private information. This is obviously optional. You don't need to have private information stored, but these are highly recommended because this is what's going to give you a competitive advantage. Like if you're just using OpenAI, or if you're just wrapping around OpenAI or wrapping around like an open source model, right? Open source, closed source, it doesn't really matter. You don't have any moat. But the real moat in this kind of large language model economy, industry, whatever you want to call it, is the data that you have. And that's kind of your private data or your client's private data, right? You have to keep that very secure, but then you want to use that to enhance the context that you're going to then feed to this large language model to then get back an output, because that's how you're going to get really key insights and really good responses back. However, there is one problem that we need to point out, okay? Which is that with these closed source models, they will, at the lower tiers, especially once you move to enterprise tiers, they won't do this. But when you're at the lower tiers, they're going to train on your data. So if you have privatized data, maybe HIPAA data that you want in the healthcare space, or FERPA data in the education space, something that we face with Tailored Tutor, You have to be really careful with what you're passing to the large language models because they're going to train on this data and now they have access to it, and now you've just leaked private data if it was a HIPAA or FERPA violations. You can't do that with closed source models. However, if you have an open source model that you're self-hosting on your own, that data is not going anywhere else. It's all staying within your private network. So that's a way that you can capitalize on still using your private data without leaking it anywhere else. And that's a key consideration you have to make as you're planning to scale and as you're planning to take on bigger projects with more privatized like data that clients want to keep secure. Now, here's the final thing. I want to make one recommendation for you guys is that if you're starting with a smaller use case, just start with a paid API, okay? Start with the closed source to get your use case off the ground, validate that it's going to work, validate that people want to use it, okay? And then start to move to open source for these larger scale projects when you're ready to scale, right? Because it's going to be a pretty big initial investment. These NVIDIA GPUs are starting basically at 50K for like the really powerful ones that you're going to want to scale up. I mean, a server of these things is almost $500,000, guys. So you got to understand that it's a big initial investment now. These prices are just going to go down in the future, right? It's going to get better and better. Um, so are the models are going to get better, might have more parameters to host, right? So we don't exactly know where the future is going, but what I can recommend right now, and probably this is going to stay true for the future, is start your small use cases with these paid APIs to get access to the better models, then start to train your own models with these open sources for basically projects that you know you're going to scale and know that you need to keep clients' data secure. So thank you guys for watching. Again, my name is Ahir Chatterjee. I'm the founder of Tailored Tutor. Go check us out if you haven't already. We make AI course assistants for college courses. And again, this was Tech Dive Tuesday. My name is Ahir Chatterjee, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys.